Good evening, everybody. This is the Carver Zoning Board of Appeals on the evening of September 25th, 2020. It's about 7:03 p.m. as I address everyone here tonight. We have a four-member board tonight instead of our usual five. And for those of you who are here tonight for their own cases, I did want to go through my little speech about what this means. Since we are not a full board tonight, but we do have a quorum at 4, it is required under our rules that if a variance or special permit is to be granted, the decision must be unanimous. If we were a full board, the decision could be 4-1 in favor and would pass. So there is a tactical or strategic decision that all the petitioners tonight need to make, and that is whether they feel comfortable proceeding with a 4-board member, understanding that it will require a unanimous decision from us for your matter to pass, or whether you would like a continuance until our next meeting, which will be within approximately 30 days of this date tonight, September 29th. So think about that as we go through our preliminary administrative matters, and then I will ask each of you, as your cases are called one after the next, to indicate for the record whether you want to go forward tonight or whether you would feel comfortable waiting for a full board and hedging your bets a little bit in that regard. The first matter tonight is the approval of meeting minutes for the date of August 28, 2020. This was our last meeting. As is my custom, I have received those minutes from our clerk, have edited them and sent them in advance to the board members tonight so that they could review them without any undue delay. I trust that each of the members to my right and the member to my left have reviewed those draft minutes. Does anyone care to make any changes, amendments, or modifications on those minutes?
I'm good. Motion to accept as written.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So those minutes now become part of our permanent record. Thank you. The next matter is board reorganization. Board reorganization, which we tabled this the last time because we did not have Ms. Clark sitting to my right, who is our vice chair, present. I want to ask you folks whether you are prepared to move forward tonight on the reorganization issue or whether you want to kick the can down the road another month in view of the fact that we don't have all members present this evening.
I'd like to make a motion to table this to the next meeting when we have a full board. Second.
Ms. Clark, you good?
I'm good.
All right. Any further discussion on this?
Stay on another month.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the crown will wear heavy on this head for another month until we come back probably in late October for our next meeting. Those were our administrative issues. We have gone through them, and now we address our first case, which is public hearing case number 1-108R, the petitioner being Matthew Gamaras, seeking a special permit pursuant to sections 2245C, 5221, and 5300, and sections following of the Carver zoning bylaw for property located at 7 Atwood Street in Carver, which is at Assessor's Map 1-Lot 108R, to construct a 1,200 square foot barn. The maximum allowed is 600 square feet in a residential agricultural district. Is the petitioner present this evening?
Yes, sir.
And you were present for my little speech about what a 4-member board means as opposed to a 5-member board.
Yes, sir.
And how would you like to proceed this evening?
I'd like to go forward, sir.
All right. So if you would care to sit at that table, bring the microphone up nice and close so we can all hear and the folks at home, and we're ready to listen to what you would like to do.
Respectfully, looking to add a 1,200 square foot barn to my property. The 1,200 square foot barn for my farming and agriculture pieces actually has a 12-foot wide pathway straight through, and both sides have 10-foot by 40-foot of usable space for a woodworking shop, and obviously for farming and other farm animals that I have down in the back of the property, just to safeguard in weather and inclement weather. Obviously, it is larger than the size required, but I've built a few in the past and always looked for more space, and I think this would be the appropriate size for what I would like to do in
You
order
have
to
a
store.
barn on the property currently?
I'm sorry?
You have a barn on the property currently?
There is a 10 by 15 shed on that property.
Can you tell me what a pole barn is?
It's an older style barn, similar to a farmhouse. It's constructed by 6-inch by 8-inch pole beams and clapboards on the side. It's just an old style look, not typical to your residential home type of build. It's more of a barn itself.
What kind of animals do you have there?
I have chickens, ducks, and 3 myotonic fainting goats.
Chickens, ducks, and goats?
That is correct, sir.
Want 2 more?
Do you have a drawing or a picture of what you want to build?
Yes, I submitted the plans. I do have another set if necessary.
Like this.
That's the plot plan, but I do have the project plans.
I don't think we have anyone have a picture?
I may?
Yeah.
The complete set of plans for that structure.
Oh, that's a. And what's the actual dimensions, what by what?
30 foot wide by 40 feet deep.
Well, and how tall is it?
The peak is roughly 25 feet, 26 feet maybe.
It's detached, there's no breezeway?
That is correct. No breezeway, it is detached.
Want to see the thing?
So what you have on the property currently is not a barn, you would refer to it as a shed?
That is correct.
Going to put electricity in there?
Down the road, I will seek an electrician to write up plans to submit to the town for a permit, but at this time, it's not necessary.
What about plumbing?
Plumbing, if required by the Board of Health or town, if I need to, I absolutely will pursue that. Need to build the structure first and then maintain anything I would have to go to the town for.
You're before the town now. Are you
No.
going to put plumbing in there or not? Is
No,
that part of the
there's
future
not,
plan?
I am not putting any water inside that building.
You don't need to build buckets for the ducks?
We can bring buckets into,
Oh, okay.
but it wouldn't need to be a service or a faucet or a service inside the building.
So then there'll be no heat.
No, not at this time.
Is there like a, oh, I showed you, but there's a second floor?
It's just really like a hayloft. It's
like
not,
loft storage?
yes, it's not an area that would be housing anything upstairs. It's really just a hayloft. It could even remain open.
And what do you have for equipment?
Tractors, several earth-moving pieces that I got to acquire back to the property once I have room to keep them and store them.
And you use those pieces on your property, it's not for a business?
Yeah, not a business at all. It's just to move the earth and maintain piles and keep the grass, try and get things appropriately moved.
Are you planning on putting that equipment in the barn for storage?
Yeah, there'll be 2 pieces of equipment in the barn.
And what are they, please?
It'd be a tractor, front-end loader, if it's small, like the Kubotas that you see down the road at supply store here.
2 of them?
Yes.
You planning on parking any motor vehicles in there besides the Kubotas?
Not made for that. It's going to have a cobblestone walk-through. It's not going to be meant for vehicles.
And I can see by this 300-foot easement you have in the back of your property, you can't put it back there.
I have a call in with Eversource. I'm waiting for a call back from the woman to see if I can move it back if needed. And to my knowledge, the only thing that Eversource has with the easement is that they're not responsible should something happen to the barn as a result of their equipment if they were doing any work back there. But if I have the ability to move it back, I will slide it back a little further to give a little bit more room.
So the plan that you have before us this evening is not necessarily going to be the final plan because you're waiting for information from Eversource. Is that right?
No, if you'll approve that final plan, that's exactly where I'll put it. But if not, if I have to go towards Eversource, I would, to move it.
Well, you don't know if you can.
Correct.
Well, he's not asking
I'm not,
Right.
variance, so it really isn't dimensional variance anyway.
Mhm.
Can I see the other drawing?
Yes.
And by right, you could put up to 600-foot barns,
that is correct.
one for animals and one for, I suppose, equipment.
That is correct.
Are you planning to add to your herd?
It's unknown at this time, but anything would go through the Board of Health for approval.
Well, you know, you should be made aware, and I want to make you aware of this now, that the relief that you're asking for, or the special permit that you're asking for, can be conditioned on certain things that we think are in the best interests of the town. So I've heard you say 3 or 4 times now, well, you know, down the road, maybe. Or, if I need a permit, I'll go get it. So you should be aware that there's opposition to this special permit. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So I ask you again, is it your plan at some point to add to the number of animals that you have on your property now?
I have no plan to add animals at this time.
Do you want to keep it open to the possibility that you might want to add more animals in the future?
If possible, I'd like to leave that open, yes.
And is this because you have formed an intent in your mind that you would like to have more animals in the future? Maybe you should ask your wife.
Yeah, that's definitely a question for my wife.
What about you?
I have enjoyed, especially being home during this COVID time for my children, to have learned and gone through this agricultural journey with us. And it's brought a lot of different things to my family. So it's been one of those rewarding things for me.
All right, so I'm still not hearing an answer to my question. The question is, have you formed an intent in your mind to add more animals in the future, more than you have currently?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And would this be more chickens, more ducks, more goats, or something else?
It would most likely be chickens, ducks, or goats at this time.
Cows, horses, pigs?
No, there will be no pigs. No. Charlotte will stay off the property.
You want the drawing back?
Yeah.
Well, the criteria for granting a special permit is listed quite clearly in our bylaws. Have you reviewed the criteria under 5330 for the granting of a bylaw?
Yes, sir.
Granting of a special permit, I should say. Traffic flow and safety, parking and loading and unloading are some of the concerns that are expressed, or some of the issues that are addressed in the criteria. We have any traffic issues that we can see based on the plan here, members of the board, given where it's cited?
No.
No.
Adequacy of utilities and other public services, I would assume there's no issue there. Neighborhood character and social structures, will address that. Momentarily, impacts on the natural environment, we'll address that. And potential fiscal impact, including impact on town services, tax base, and employment. So are the chickens going to be paying tax?
No.
All right. Let me move to the issue or issues that have been raised by one of the objectors. I'm going to read this into the record. It's an email that was received today, a little bit before 1 o'clock. I've just seen it now for the first time, and the rest of the board has not seen it at all yet. But what it says is that in regards to a hearing at Town Hall in Room 1 this evening, we, the current residents of 10 Craig Street, oppose the building of the 1,200-foot barn at 7 Atwood Street in Carver because of the concerns of the potential of stocking agricultural and farm animals due to noise and smells, and also the potential of shoring up any type or storing up of any type of hazardous materials. And this is signed by Justin Panzer and Michael Panzer and Susan Panzer. Justin is the owner, and the other two are most likely family members because the surname is the same. So do you know the Panzers?
I do not, sir.
Have you had any conversation with them before this evening?
I have not, sir.
Let's address these concerns then, because I know that if I didn't bring this up, or if it weren't brought up in this email, the board members to my left and right would. What are we doing with the noise and smells and potential, I wouldn't say hazardous materials, but organic materials that can sometimes build up and produce unpleasant smells and conditions? What's your plan?
I've talked with the abutters to the left and right of me and have had no complaints of any odors or smells. The compost bin will obviously meet the requirements of being contained and ability to decompose properly so that there would not be any exposure to varmints or any.
Is there a cover on that compost bin?
The compost bin doesn't exist yet except one pile now that's enclosed with pallets and just grass and hay.
So your plan is to place a compost bin
Correct.
on this property?
Correct.
Will it have a lid on it or not a lid on it?
There'll certainly be a lid if the abutters would request that.
Well,
Mr. Chairman,
they can request all they want. It's the decision of the board. Yes?
where is this email resident in relation to this property?
I'm going to guess Craig Street is down the back of my property, over the power lines, and probably another 250 square feet down that way, yeah.
Okay.
I honestly don't know who they are.
So they're not in a butter?
Well, they must have been
On the other side,
300 feet.
Craig Street is opposite Atwood on the other side of the service.
What's the number again? I'm sorry, was it 7?
7 Atwood Street?
So that would,
7 Atwood.
I have the assessor's plan, those of you, so,
This is the abutters list that we're looking at.
okay. So they're probably across the street here. There's 4, 6, 8, so 7 would be over here.
They're behind, yeah, they're behind them,
Behind and across the street?
across the power lines.
They're behind them and across Craig Street. Are they these in the back?
They're right here. This is his lot, he's got the power line easement, this is their lot. They're about on the.
So are they within 300 feet or not? It looks like they are.
It's just 300 feet from any lot behind it. Oh, okay.
I should tell you that we don't see this stuff by design until we come to these meetings, so that we remain as completely impartial and uninfluenced as possible. So sometimes we have to sort of kind of puzzle over maps and things.
Yeah, they're directly behind you.
But is there a street or a power line there?
It's the power lines, that's one of these two homes.
Yeah.
That's his property there. This is the power line, it's one of these two homes.
It's right
It's
here.
that home, right here, yep.
Where's the front?
This is right there.
Barn's going to be to the side of the house, right?
Yes, to the right of my house.
To the left.
If you're looking at the house from the street, it's on the left, yes.
Mr. Jermaine?
I'm good.
Mr. Mueller?
I'd like to see the site, 'cause it looks kind of tight over there.
Tight on the side where they want to put the barn.
Yeah, with the neighbors, it's hard to get a, there's no footprint of the home, their abutter neighbor. It does look, looking at the satellite image, looks kind of tight on that side.
We don't, can we calculate based on the plans, if the barn goes in, how much footage we're going to have from the edge of that barn to the lot line?
Looks like it's 12 feet.
He's saying 12. I mean, he didn't ask for a dimensional variance, so it has to be within 10.
And he's got 12.
They
Yeah,
said,
according to Art's drawing, yeah.
Yep, 12.
So we would have enough.
mhm.
Ms. Clark?
I wouldn't mind walking the property. It's a big barn on a small residential lot. I mean, our regular residential lots are 60,000 square feet. This one's less than 40. So it's a big kind of thing. So what we generally do is we do a site walk just to get a sense of it. And when we come out, we ask that you stake it out as best you can in the area that you want it. And then we can get a sense of what it looks like,
Certainly.
especially with the power line easement back there, so that's,
Whatever the board wishes.
okay.
And it's going to be to the right of the property, correct?
If you're looking from Atwood Street at the house, it will be to the left.
If we're looking dead onto the house, it's gonna be to the left.
Correct.
Yeah.
I said right. There are a number of people here with us tonight. Would anybody like to be heard on this particular proposal? Yes, sir. If you could give us your name and address.
Donald Bloss, 8 Atwood Street.
Sure.
I'm directly across from the Gamaris family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in full support of the bond that he wants to build. They've been great neighbors so far. I don't see anything changing that. I think it's great that they have their kids growing up with a little bit of livestock. And my kids all did, and it's been wonderful. So kind of looking forward to getting them into 4-H clubs and stuff like that.
Well, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to be heard? All right, I don't see any other hands. It has been our long-held policy that if one member of the board wants to take a walk, we all have to go. So what I'd like to do, with your permission, is to continue this until our next meeting. And between now and then, we'll decide on a date, and that decision will be made tonight. We'll decide on a date when we can come over. As Ms. Clark indicated, you stake out the four corners of where this barn is going to be, because it's going to be detached, so you can give us the four corners. And then we'll go over, we'll take a look. This is usually done on a Saturday morning, so some nice donuts and coffee would be appreciated. Teasing.
He's teasing.
He's kidding.
It's quite all right.
He
With
knows.
conservation, we'd have cocktails after 10.
So I asked the board members what date works for them on a Saturday walk.
I'm just going to offer this. We have 4 cases, and we may need to consider site walks on any of the other ones. So it should be a date that we can possibly piggyback more than one. So if we pick one now, if anyone else is going to get a site walk, we're kind of marrying them to it. So I just wanted to bring that part up.
Okay.
And after that, well, I'm pretty wide open, guys, so.
Mr. Jermaine?
The only one I don't have is Columbus Day weekend, which is the 9th.
I can't do this weekend at all, so that's,
And we can't do the following weekend because you're,
The 10th.
that's
yep.
Columbus Day weekend,
I
so
got my
the
stepdaughter
17th?
getting married this weekend, I can't.
I can do the 17th.
Can I ask you a question, Eric?
Yep.
Do you think it's too tight? I'm just trying to get a handle on why the sidewalk. From the
Just looking
Google
at
map,
this-
it looks like the abutter's house is over
Yeah,
equal.
just the size,
distance.
overall size with the home. And then I want to get a gauge on the peak. It's 26 feet. Do you know off the top of your head what type of home you have?
I have a cape with the 2nd floor, so it's roughly the same, if not a little lower than the peak of what's existing.
Does he know what kind of house he has?
Well, yeah, but you never know in Carver.
Alan, does the 17th work for you?
You can't put it in the backyard because the power lines.
And they have a restriction on distance, or they have a setback, or,
For the Eversource you're talking?
Yes.
They have a line where there's an easement line.
and that's what's on the map.
Yes, that is correct. You see that line directly behind that.
Either one is good.
17th.
Oh, he can't the 10th, right?
Yeah.
I can't the
17th.
3rd.
9 a.m.? Sharon?
Oh, sure.
October 17th, 9 o'clock. Now, while we're on this, we should schedule our next meeting, which we know, as I said before, it will probably be within about 30 days of tonight, but I don't want you to leave here tonight without knowing what the next date is. Before I give you that, is there any rush to get this barn built
Those
this
are my
season?
next question.
No, I mean, having R.D. Williams cut the lumber, obviously I need to plan accordingly and obviously supplies and stuff, but if it's pushed back to the spring, I'll push if I need to.
Okay, because it's New England weather, you know what they say, if you
I-
don't like it, wait a minute.
I think we're expecting a bad winter this year, so we'll see.
I don't want to even think about that. I've given up shoveling snow.
That is true.
That's why we have boys, right?
It won't snow. I bought a brand-new plow last year. It hasn't even seen a snowflake yet.
I'm going to go hold you to that then.
Okay, so I would imagine it wouldn't take very long to put this barn up anyway.
It would not.
So, understanding from you that there is no real urgency, I think the 30-day time frame will be workable for you.
Yes, sir.
If you want to try to get this up assuming you get the special permit, if you want to get it up this season. That is before Thanksgiving.
Correct.
So what date works best for folks at the end of October?
If you want to keep it on a Tuesday, the 27th is both good for me.
27th, Mr. Mueller
Works for me.
and Alan. October 27th.
I wonder if it'd be more beneficial to some of the applicants if we did the 20th. We're into the 27th of October, he's got the month of assuming if this were approved, he'd have only the few weeks of the month of November, and then we got cold weather and snow flying.
Well, let's see if the 20th works for people. Does the 20th work for you?
Yeah, works for me.
And Ms. Clark, does the 20th work for you?
It does, but we haven't advertised
Right.
incoming cases.
She's exactly right, and that's what I was going to say. We have 2 other cases waiting in the queue that have to be, that have to go to publication. So for us to accomplish that and get them in for our next meeting, the 20th, will probably not allow enough time for publication. So with all due respect to Mr. Jermaine's salient point, I think pushing out to the 27th would be better.
I think it would be safer because we'll be pushing the planning department a little bit to get them out by the 20th. You'd have to have them published and ready to go by tomorrow.
So the 20,
Right, so let's do the 27th just to make sure we can take everything.
what I can offer you is first case out, which, that's good. As an attorney, we always want to be the first case out, because usually there's 40 cases in back of the one that we're there for. So we'll give you first case out priority on the 27th. How's that?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the board for a motion to conduct a site walk on October 17th at 9 o'clock.
Mayor?
Yes.
Assuming this gets, if we grant this on the 27th, how soon do you think you'll be able to complete this? It looks like you've got trees to take down and so forth also to make this thing fit.
I have just 3 trunks remaining. Most of the lot's been cleared, so your walk is going to be an easy walk.
So that would give you enough time to still get it,
Weather depending.
the animals,
Well, the animals are safe, and that's not a concern. So if need be, I can try and push the November build, but if it doesn't look like it'll happen, it'll be first of the spring,
Okay.
if I really need to. That's, thank you.
So I ask,
I
I was
appreciate
just
it.
trying to determine.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate the question.
Motion from the board as to the site walk.
So moved.
Second,
This will be for October 17th at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
All in favor?
aye.
All right.
Motion from the board to continue on the merits of this case to October 27th
So moved.
at 7 p.m. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done tonight
Thank you very much.
with you. Look into the, I would advise looking into that compost bin
Absolutely.
with lid, so that when you come back before us, you'll be able to tell us what you're planning.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sir, do you need these back?
If you want to keep that for you when you bring it, that's fine. I have that electronically.
We'll bring goat treats.
You can make a few
I might actually bring a couple of goats. No, I might bring some for you.
You can drop them off?
Yeah.
Okay. Our next case is another barn case. Case number 62-A-5R, the petitioners being Paul and Mary Jane Murphy. Are they here tonight? Paul and Mary Jane?
Yes.
Hi. Seeking a permit pursuant to sections 2245C, 5221, and 5300 and following sections of the Carver zoning bylaw for a property located at 31 West Street in Carver. That's Assessor's Map 62-Lot A-5R, to demolish the existing 24 by 24 foot barn and construct a new 24 by 30 foot barn, which is 720 square feet. The maximum allowed, as we just went through on the previous cases, 600 square feet, all in a residential agricultural district. Welcome. Nice to see you both.
Thank you.
And what I'd like to do first is get my paperwork in order, because if I don't, I won't be able to figure it out in the morning. Okay. So what I'd like to do is hear from both of you, and I know the other board members as well, as to what you would like to be doing out there.
We would like to demolish the 25 by 24 barn that we have and construct a 24 by 30 barn. The extra 120 square feet is going to be going approximately 300 feet towards the back of the property. It's going to stay basically in the same spot as the 24 by 24 barn.
When you say basically the same spot,
In the same spot.
are you moving the footprint of the barn?
It's extending 6 feet away. So we're 24 by 24, we're gonna be 24 by 30.
Got it.
So it's going just 6 feet wide.
And it's going towards the back property line,
Back
correct?
property, yes.
This on a pad, existing?
It's gonna be on sonotubes.
Concrete.
So there's no pad there now?
No.
No, the original barn is a pole barn, it's in the ground, and it's,
Was rotted and moldy
Yeah,
and
yeah.
totally unsafe for the horse. And we didn't realize it, and
How
And
many
this is
horses?
a horse barn?
yes,
horse barn, yes.
Yeah.
Do you have horses now?
yes,
How many you got?
one.
You gonna get any more?
We don't have any plans right at this moment to get any more, no,
Unless I feel a little younger.
which probably won't happen.
They're a lot of work, aren't they? They're beautiful animals, but it's a lot of work.
Yes.
Um,
I'm gonna be storing the hay and the grain in the barn, and also my tack. It'll be a lot safer.
Is it gonna be one story or two?
One story.
Approximately 12 feet to the peak.
Do you have any kind of a drawing or schematic of the barn itself, like?
Yes, we gave that, but I do have.
I mean, I have the floor plans.
All right, yeah.
May I bring this up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you actually just want to put this new barn in the place of the old barn, and it will overlap by an additional 6 feet
Correct,
toward the back.
correct.
Existing barn, 12 feet or a little taller, or,
24.
Height-wise?
yeah, the
Oh.
Carver.
It's,
I thought I heard you say 12 feet to the peak.
the new one is 12 feet to the peak. This one is roughly, it's a different shape. It's more of a lean-to style, so the front of it's probably 12, the back of it's probably 10. The new one's gonna be more of a,
Peak.
yeah,
Yeah.
How tall is your house at the peak?
it's a cape with second floor. It's gotta be 25 feet, I would imagine.
Okay, so the barn, what we're concerned about is where the barn is taller than the house.
Oh, no.
It's definitely lower.
Then it looks
Lower.
weird, and we've had some cases like that in the past. You gonna have electricity in there?
Yes.
Gonna have water in there?
No,
Gonna have heat in there?
no.
You're not bringing water in for the horse?
There is water currently in the paddock, and I just run a hose.
We have a water line that goes out to the paddock. It's not in the barn. It's roughly, probably from here to the wall to the barn.
Yeah, and just run a hose and fill it up.
Freezing's not a problem?
No.
No, it's
Frost-free?
frost-free, yes.
But you will have electricity there.
Correct. There's electricity in the barn now. We're just gonna leave it.
Well, you're gonna have to pull that up, right? Because you're demolishing the barn.
Yeah, but the lines are still there.
You're not gonna mess with the lines?
No. It's only a 110 line, just for lighting.
Oh. There's no heat.
No.
No.
Any lighting?
Just, yeah, lighting.
What
All right.
about the exterior of the barn, spotlights or?
I'd like to put them out just to keep.
So I think
Keep it
it's
open.
solar
Yeah,
lights.
it's gonna be 110, it's on a 20 amp circuit, and it's gonna be all LED. It's only gonna be a couple of lights
On the
on
inside.
the inside and probably a
Solar,
spotlight or two
yeah,
on the
on the
outside.
outside.
But we have, solar lights now for
Okay.
the outside, and they seem to work fine, so we'll probably just continue with those.
Yeah,
You give me the file back.
Yeah, that was for,
It was wrong.
a different case. Yeah, I'm good. Do you know, it's not marked on here, but do you know how, approximately how far your barn is from your lot line now? It's
The,
detached, so it needs to be 10 feet.
Yeah, it's
It's
34 feet, to one side,
35 feet,
35 feet to one side, and it's
about
300 and
Okay,
something feet to the back, and probably
About
100,
200.
yeah,
Okay.
200 feet to the other side.
it's hard to tell with this as to where
Oh,
the,
yeah.
if it's inside 10, because it's not to
Yeah,
scale.
the
and I
closest,
can't measure out.
is 35 feet.
Okay, so
Okay.
you're good with the 10.
All right. We always ask these questions, as we did to the petitioner before you. Were you in the room for that?
Well, right outside.
Well, he was only 12 feet away.
Yeah, no, there's plenty of room.
Okay, so no dimensional issues for you here.
No.
Just the size.
So if you get into an argument, she can send you out to the barn and she doesn't have to.
No, I'll go
It's
out
actually-
to the barn.
It's her barn. I can stay in my garage.
Let me ask you about your construction time frame. When would you like to begin with this?
Well, what can I answer this?
Yeah, you can.
This is a prefab barn, so it's being built in a controlled environment. So it's coming out modular, basically.
Mhm.
And you had to put a deposit.
Basically already built, is that what
It's
you're saying?
Yeah, it's we already bought it. We had no choice.
Well, we had to put a deposit
We had to
down
put a
in order to
deposit
get
down.
this to give to you,
Yeah.
so we have money tied up right
Yeah.
now, so.
It's tied up.
Well, then I'm
Probably.
voting no.
Huh?
Just kidding.
Do
So
a site walk?
Right now,
you got one horse now.
Yes.
yes.
Is it your plan to have more horses in the future?
Not at this time,
If we do, it'll only be one more, if I get brave.
yeah.
But
Yep.
you're on 3.5 acres here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're literally across the street from Flowers, right?
Yes,
Oh, is that where you're, okay.
Directly, by the looks of it. The
diagonal,
only thing I don't see is your existing barn.
yeah. All the pictures.
Let me ask
A
you,
picture of your existing barn?
Yes.
I don't see it on
It's, oh, on there.
Earth.
But everybody goes to Google Earth.
Yeah, it's kind of like hidden. Is it hidden in the trees?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
In here is
See,
this
that's
too.
what I got.
Yeah, it's back in here. It's covered in trees.
Wow, incognito.
But you don't need to take down any trees or anything to move.
They're already done.
No, the
They're
trees are.
down?
The only reason why we took them down is to bring more light, because that's why the old barn rotted out, because it
Oh,
didn't
I
get
got
enough
you.
light.
Yeah, what we started to do is, we started to repair the barn, the original barn, and there was not a lot of light there, so it was kind of
It was just
Moldy.
getting moldy.
molding out.
Yeah.
So we took down the trees, and once we got the trees down, then we went to fix the barn up, and we realized that it's just too far
Wasn't,
gone to be safe.
So the paddock, you have a paddock around? the
yeah,
barn,
it's
so that's all
existing,
staying- Okay.
yeah.
what are you doing with the waste now?
Oh, composting it.
Okay. Does anyone from the audience have any questions, or would they like to be heard at all with regard to this proposal? Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
Mike Paddock, 23 West Street.
Mike Paddock.
Yes.
That's an appropriate name for this petition.
Spelled will definitely be yes. Am I 6 feet away? Can I do?
Yeah, you can.
You can do that.
The Murphys have been good neighbors of mine for 15 years. They've been considerate people. I've been on the property. I've seen the barn. This would be an improvement for our neighborhood. I have no problem whatsoever, and I'd like to support the project.
Thank you.
Aren't you nice for coming? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard? Okay. And moving along and kicking it back to the board members, does anyone else have any questions or comments?
The fact that it's on 3.5 acres or more, it's replacing essentially a decrepit barn, if I can use that word, with a much more improved barn. I don't feel the need to go out there. There doesn't seem to be any issues. You're not close to the street, you're not on a small lot. It's certainly appropriate. And as far as any future horses go, I think that's a Board of Health issue. So I'm fine with it. I have no further questions.
Mr. Jermaine?
I'm good.
Mr. Mueller?
Good.
I make a motion to, or somebody should make a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing for
Second, please.
A-5R.
Second.
All in favor?
You're taking turns here.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, this public hearing then is closed. And then I want a motion to be made on the following finding: that the board finds that the benefits of the proposed use outweigh the detrimental impacts on the town and neighborhood in view of the particular characteristics of this site and the proposal in relation to this site. This is the magic legal language that we need to use in cases like this. This would be the finding, the legal finding of the board after listening to the evidence in this case. Does anyone want to make that motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And I would like to hear a motion along the following lines: that the board votes to grant a special permit under the authority given to us under the Carver zoning bylaws, sections 5221 and 5300, and the following sections, as all is more particularly described in the testimony that we've heard this evening. Anyone want to make that motion to grant the special permit under those pertinent bylaw sections?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the special permit is granted. Congratulations. Does anyone have any conditions to this grant? I know that you've said that you don't want, or you have no intention to put water in there, plumbing in there, and you have no intention to put heat in there, and that you would only increase the number of your herd by 1. So does anyone want to condition the grant of this special permit on any of those things, or the plans of record, which we usually do?
I do not.
You do not. You don't want to condition on the plans of record?
Well, the plans of record are part of the testimony.
They're also part of the file, the written plans of record. I mean, I leave it to you.
So make the condition to the plans that they submitted.
Yes?
They're just 4 plans. And this plan here is not a surveyor's plan.
Correct.
It's hand-drawn, so I wouldn't condition it to that.
Okay.
I condition it to the testimony that they're replacing the barn where it, by putting it where the other one is, and, I mean, I'm going with that.
Okay, and what about conditioning on the fact that there will be no heat and no plumbing installed in the new barn?
I don't
I don't
have,
think I'd want to lock them down at that.
I don't see any reason to lock it
Okay.
in.
So these are the kinds of things, again, that we talk about once the special permit is granted and you thinking, okay, we're good, and then we come back at you and say, well, there's something else. But in this case, as you've heard, apparently the board members are not
I mean, the design.
interested in tying you down.
The design of the barn that she showed us doesn't give any indication that there might be like a residential apartment being, snuck in there
No.
or anything like that. So it's a barn that's gonna have a horse in it.
Exactly. Hay, grain, and tack,
But no, I myself right now don't feel.
and a
any-
radio.
No, see, you didn't say anything about the radio.
And we're going to have to talk about that. Before I let you go, my daughter, for many
I'll
years,
bring my phone then.
my daughter for many years rode, and they're beautiful animals, but it's a lot of work, and we're pleased to be able to approve this special permit. Good luck going forward.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Let me just give you a quick synopsis of what happens here. We'll write up the decision in the next few days. And it'll be turned into the town clerk's office. The town clerk's office waits a 20-day appeal period where all your abutters will get mailed a copy of the decision. If they wish to appeal to Superior Court, thinking that we were wrong, then that happens in the 20 days. Once the 20-day appeal period has cleared, she will call you and give you the original copy, the original with the original signatures. You have to take it down to the Registry of Deeds, which is all e-filing right now because the building is not open. But you can do that up in Rockland. There's an e-filing place up in Rockland. And once you have your special permit on record, the building department can issue your building permit, but not until you've returned with either the copy of it stamped and being on record. But look at the Registry of Deeds website to see how it is they're doing it right now. I know the building's not open. But once you have your returned copy with the book and page and everything from the Registry of Deeds, you can get your building permit.
Okay, thank you.
But you're good to go after that.
Thank you very much.
And you're good to go now?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right?
Have a nice evening, and thank you again.
too.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's what she said, babe.
Well, you didn't say that.
Thank you.
Yep. Next case is public hearing, number 17-62, the petitioner being Peter Hiltz. Is Peter here tonight? Yes. Hello, Peter. Seeking a variance pursuant to Section 2320 or a special permit pursuant to Sections 2253, 5221, and 5300, and sections following of the Carver zoning bylaw to extend a structure, which would be construction of a 5-foot wide porch in front of the existing house.
Yes, sir.
On a pre-existing, non-conforming lot for property located at 9 Pine City Road in Carver, which is at Assessor's Map 17, Lot 62, in a residential agricultural district. Did I get all that right?
That's it.
All right, so you sat through the first 2 meetings, right? The first 2 cases?
Yeah, we have.
So
we have
I
no
throw it to you. It's all on you right now.
Bond. What we're looking for is just to go 5 feet off the existing house instead of 4. My living room protrudes out 4 feet to existing house. It's a ranch. We built an addition to the left of the ranch, and a new addition could not go 1 inch beyond the existing house, the further part back. The living room does protrude out 4 feet. So we want to build, and on the plan you see, and it's been approved and everything, for the 4 feet to go in front of that existing door into my old living room and go along until where there's a breezeway, and then an addition to the left of the breezeway.
And this is, you're pushing out 5 feet towards the road, towards the street, right?
Asking for 12 inches beyond my living room, just so that if I built it 4 feet and put a railing, I'd end up at 3'6", and if I want to sit on when we sit on the porch, we'd have to stand up to let someone walk by if it's 3'6".
All right, so
Just
you're
asking for
constructing a
12 inches
5-foot porch, but it's only 1 foot
extra,
extra,
that's all I'm asking
again,
for.
towards the road, right?
Towards the road, and there's 6 houses in a row, and when they built them in the early 60s, they're all ranches, almost identical, but they were, by the old laws, or by the new laws, they're 10 feet too close to the street. We're not 50 feet, so we're we're 40 feet back off
So
the street.
it's, you're basically squaring off the house.
Plus 12 inches,
Huh?
right? Plus you want to
The
go,
living room the old living room comes out 4 feet, and I just wanted to run a porch in front of the old house, and just in front of the 7-foot breezeway. The breezeway is recessed in 7 feet, and it's 7 feet wide. But then the new addition is even with the front wall of the old house, the furthest point back, not the living room, closest to the street. So I just want to run the porch goes from my old living room to the new addition.
Is there a set of stairs coming out of your
There's
front
going to be
door?
2 flights of stairs, one in front of my door and one in front of the door in front of the
I'm
breezeway.
asking existing right now.
There is an old
Does
brick
the stairs
collapsed
stick out
steps.
beyond the house?
They do come out, 2 steps come out beyond the house already, yes,
How
sir.
much?
Well, 2 steps would be about 18 inches already.
porch is on your existing home,
Good question.
right?
So that
So the porch will come
frontage
out,
would go to the
You think it's what?
extent of the stair. Am I correct? We did this before.
Right,
So he wouldn't need the variance.
correct.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry, I wasn't.
The other house that we looked at, and I forget the address, it came down, he was looking for a similar variance for that shed that he was putting up, garage he was putting up.
Carport.
And it was gonna, carport, and it was gonna stick out beyond the house. And we determined it didn't really need the variance because the front stairs stuck out beyond the house, and he couldn't go beyond that first step. That's why I asked, how many stairs are there? If it is in fact 18 inches, he's only looking for 12, he's still gonna be inside that existing front stair, he doesn't need the variance.
Are you inside that existing front stair with the extra 12?
the porch would be inside where the stairs is, but then we're gonna have stairs which are gonna go further, 3 or 4 steps
So you're
further.
gonna need some kind of relief.
I'm still gonna have a staircase, the old stairs are coming out.
Yep.
Like, I'm sorry, I
Okay, all right,
don't,
I got what you're saying.
the
That's a
stairs
good
are
point, though.
protruding out past the house, but then
So
my
then you-
stairs will also come out, I don't wanna try to trick them.
But you only need you really only need the relief for the stairs to get onto the porch. You don't need a relief for the porch to be built, because the porch isn't gonna stick out beyond the existing footprint of the existing stairs. Am I
Well, he's-
correct?
I got you.
He's taking
See what I'm
the,
saying?
I
you're
know.
taking the existing porch out, right?
Yes, they're old collapsed brick steps that are caved in, and it's about a 12-inch step up.
So he'd need to get relief to add the stairs to get to the porch, but he doesn't need relief for the actual porch.
You're right.
Yep.
The other case that you were citing, they weren't doing anything. It was
That's right.
It was
They-
it was a
It
separate
was a separate
building, but we
building, that's
brought
right.
that, but the
Because we
stairs.
walked it and
So
all.
we actually need to know where how far away the stairs are going to be.
How many stairs up now currently to the porch?
3 and a landing, so it would be,
The
the
land
same.
doesn't count, so it's just the
You don't have a
stairs.
picture of it, do you, by any chance?
12,
I don't,
36.
I thought you had all of that.
No,
Picture
we
of
have-
the old stairs?
We have this, I'm,
Al, 12-inch, 12-inch trits, is that what that is?
I would imagine they're probably 8s, maybe 9s,
Got a picture of my
can I
stairs?
see a picture?
6.5, probably 9.
Let me see.
So
It is.
15.
It's on the public website. Yeah, I have.
There you go.
Oh, it's on the assessor's database.
There you go.
Keeps doing that. Oh, I see what you're trying to do.
Yeah, so the stairs come out 2 steps beyond, like.
Actually, this is deceiving, this picture, because it looks to me like that set of, that concrete comes out quite a bit.
Can I see it?
You may not, I think this is gonna be one of these we need to take a look. This would save this.
Well, it's partly because the distance,
Seems to stick out.
Yeah. Yep. And the plan shows the deck being even with that living room, and I just wanted to come out 12 inches past.
You wanna come out 12 inches more.
With the deck, yep. Here,
That's
this is
what-
her phone, yep.
The stairs will come out 12 inches.
Yeah,
Here you are, thank you.
That's like 1.5 stairs.
Did you want to see it?
so we could, cover our bases with a 12-inch variance on it, because the addition, the actual porch won't stick out beyond the current structure of the stairs, but he's taking the stairs out. Then he's gonna need to have a new set of stairs to get to it, so he's gonna need the relief for the stairs. I don't know.
for the distance of the stairs to
Yeah,
the street.
I don't know if you wanna take a peek at this one, or we just wanna give him the 12 inches, but.
I don't know
hate
if
to
I
give him 12
think I need
inches
a-
to find out that it needed to be 14.
A look at this. I don't think so. You?
I don't, but I want to be,
Yeah, I don't
I
wanna,
want to be sure.
I don't wanna give him 12 and then find out he should've had 14. Do you know what I mean?
Do you understand what we're talking about?
No, you lost me on that, about the
So, I'm
14.
sorry. We don't wanna grant a variance for 12 inches, and then when all is said and done and you start building, you find that we really needed to have 14 or 15 inches, and the variance doesn't cover that. Then you're back in here trying to get that adjusted. So I'm wondering.
Why don't we give him 14 or 15 inches then?
We can do that.
It is not uncommon for this board to grant a little bit of extra because of the issues that might arise during construction.
Okay,
it's hard to be absolutely precise
Well, we
sometimes.
don't have building plans, that's, so we don't have
So that-
accurate.
So the code is 11 inches on the tread.
That's fine with me, I thank you for that.
Wait, hold on a second, what?
The tread is 11-inch minimum on state code, so
Yes.
it's 3. You're talking 3 feet there, depending on what he's got already.
So we could need 24 inches
Right.
to be able to accommodate the treads. Now, again, but if the treads are wood, are they part of the structure? You do them out of wood, or you do them out of cement?
Wood stairs, 11, you're right, and like you
These
said.
are gonna be the new ones, the ones that you're putting in.
11, 22, 36, just like he's saying. I mean,
So, but that's wood,
34.
so.
State code is the same though, regardless of what the
No,
composition
no, the
is.
requirement is, but is the wood considered, the stairs considered a structure? Is that considered, as opposed to a poured concrete?
Right. I think we discussed this before,
Well, the other one was poured concrete.
so that's a structure. So it's not a structure, so I don't think we have any issues with it.
The third step is the.
We could grant it up to a 24-inch leeway and have it include, it's for the stairs.
Yeah,
So he's
We
gotta
could
just,
condition it that the variance is.
It's 2 stairs
for
and the
stairs.
porch.
I'm
It
sorry?
doesn't need-
But it will,
2 steps and then
the existing stairs are 2 stairs and then the landing, and then you step into the house. But it's, and the landing will be the deck.
it'll be one
so you're gonna
stair.
have 2 stairs up to the deck. You're gonna have pad at the bottom, I'm sure.
I'm
And
gonna
those
put a
will
pad.
start at the
I'm gonna
new-
put a pad, and I
new
can bring the
deck.
ground up here if I had to, make it work.
So the variance is really only for the actual stair entry, because the,
Well, he's at 38.7 distance from the street, so we have to wrap the extra 2 feet into the 38.7.
Put 35.
so we could drop it back to 30.
It would have to be a 5-foot variance.
No,
Because
we
it's
could-
supposed to be, well, no, it's supposed to be 50 feet from the street.
Yeah, so 15, give him a 15-foot variance.
Wait a minute,
Leaves him 200.
wait a minute.
Wait, stop.
Is this a variance or a special permit? Because if this guy needs a variance, we have a whole set of state law requirements, as we all know, that he has to satisfy. If it's a special permit, then we've got a little bit more leeway.
I leave that to the experienced members of the board.
The most experienced sits to my immediate right, which is why we hedged a little bit on the publication as to whether this was a variance or a special permit. It wasn't clear from the paperwork that was filed whether this was a special permit or a request for a variance. The variance requirements under state law can be difficult to satisfy. What you have to show as a petitioner is that there is something unusual or distinctive about your property insofar as its shape, soil, or topography to allow us to break the local bylaw and give you the variance that you might need. Now, with special permits, you don't need to go through that topography, soil, shape of land analysis. You just make a decision based upon the nature of the neighborhood, whether the parking is okay, whether it's going to interfere with or impact in a deleterious way the nature of the neighborhood. So it's, as I said, I think for us, at least for me anyway, special permits are a little bit more flexible to defend legally at this level than granting a variance would. So I know Ms. Clark is going through this now to kind of decide.
We already have a regular permit, the construction of the whole building is done.
Yeah.
Mr. Francis, the building inspector, he figured out, he said, just make your appeal at the end, do everything but, so we've held off on the deck. We wanted to build the deck now before the winter. You know,
Well, we pitched it either way. We pitched it in the alternative in the advertising, in the publication. So sometimes in the past, we thought it was a special permit based upon the papers, and it was a variance, and we had to come back at it on a different date with new publication. But that will not be you. We'll be able to make a decision, I think, tonight. It's just a matter of whether we're going to characterize this as a variance or a special permit. And again, the variance is harder to defend legally than the granting of a special permit would be. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I would argue that special permit would work because we're only looking to grant relief for the stairs. He doesn't need relief for the porch, because that doesn't stick out beyond the existing footprint of the house. So we only need to get him access to the porch. So would that come under, obviously, you can't build the porch if you can't get to it.
I think we can do this under a special permit because it's a pre-existing nonconformity.
Right.
It's a pre-existing nonconformity house and lot, and it's not a complete tear down, he's not starting over,
Right.
building in a separate footprint. I think we can do it.
That works for me.
Ms. Mueller?
Just go do it.
Does anyone here attending tonight from the public have any comments or questions or wish to be heard concerning this particular proposal? So as I understand it, kicking back to you for a minute, this new construction will allow you to step up, the stairs will allow you to step onto the deck, and the deck will allow you then to enter which room in your house? Is it the living room?
It is the living room, yes, and then also the other side of the deck where the other staircase will be going into the new breezeway. Well, it's 25 feet apart, two different staircases.
Can- Alan, can you show him this and just have him pencil in where he's talking about?
I'm assuming your entry's gonna be here, and you're talking over here, or is it gonna be coming in from
This
the
is
side?
the existing deck, yeah. It's gonna be a flight of stairs right here, because this is a door right here that swings into here.
Okay.
Now this is a breezeway, and this door swings into here. And now this breezeway is 7 feet
Yeah,
by 7 feet.
so the stairs are way back here.
Nope, this deck is going to, I wanted the deck to come out
One floor.
right along here, and it, yeah, right along here, and it's gonna go into here. It's gonna be here, and here.
Okay, so these two sets of stairs will be the same.
Same layout, same, all wrapped in white vinyl and beautiful treads and finished perfect with vinyl white railings, and it's just gonna be, make the neighborhood look nicer.
Thank you, sir.
Pass that over. I'll explain it from a distance. I left my mask at home.
So you're going to have
If you
two
look
sets
at
of stairs?
What he drew,
Yes?
you'll see two sets of stairs. Do you see where he's gonna square off the existing breezeway to the left?
So he's gonna square that
He's
off.
gonna
too.
square that off and
Oh,
then
okay.
put a
So the
second
majority of
set
the deck
stairs.
will, I'm hoping to be 5 feet instead of 4 feet.
Right.
But if it is 5 feet and it goes in 7 feet, there will be a 12-foot area into the breezeway.
He overdrew the stairs, right, so I'm getting nervous.
Yeah, it's not to scale.
It's gonna slow you down.
New deck,
Oh,
too.
new deck,
This
okay.
is new deck. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm good
So
then.
you need the extra
Can I have that back?
distance for both sets of stairs?
Yes, just below, if that was a problem, I could jog the deck in that area, because in that area, it's gonna be a 12-foot deck, but I just wanted it to be a straight line. I thought it would
Okay.
look
I
better.
don't think that's a big deal. That's just my opinion.
I don't think we have to.
We're only
give him
asking for the 5 feet, because 4 feet's just not deep enough.
We're giving him the special permit.
We can condition it on a number.
That's true. You can condition it on no more than 35 feet to the street.
So let me ask you first, does anybody have any further questions or comments on the board here?
Good.
All right. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. No, I have no other questions. Well, maybe I do.
Take your time.
So 38 foot 7 inches. So we cut that back to 35. That grants him 2 feet 5 inches, 2 feet 5, almost 2.5 feet.
Call it 2.5.
Is that enough with 12-inch
That's my
riser.
concern. 2.5 is 12, 24, 31.
11 is the minimum on a tread.
So if you're giving him 30,
Yeah, we're giving
and the
him,
minimum standard is 22,
Okay.
You get your kickboard,
I might be more interested in like 30. I'd give him 30, give him 3 feet, so
that probably,
Okay.
yeah,
30.
3 feet.
4.
well, let's,
30.
let's,
Yeah, 30.
let's close the hearing, and then we can talk about conditions.
Motion to close the hearing for.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so this hearing is closed. Then I'd like to hear a motion along the following lines, that the board has found that it may award a special permit under the circumstances of this case to reconstruct, extend, alter, or change the nonconforming structure, as it has been determined that such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change is not substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconforming structure to the neighborhood. That's a mouthful. This is all good for you. Do I hear somebody wanting to make that
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that finding has been made. Next, I'd like to hear a motion that the request for a special permit under the authority granted to the board pursuant to Carver zoning bylaw 5221. I'm sorry, strike that. That a special permit is granted under the Carver zoning bylaw pursuant to section 2253 and 5300 and following sections. All is more particularly described earlier this evening during the evidence-taking part of this case. So this would be a motion to grant the special permit.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, conditions.
It would be, my condition would be, due to the pre-existing nonconformity of 38 feet 7 inches from the street, is that the new stairs be no
35.7.
I'd go 35, that gives him,
35.
3 feet.
I like round numbers.
35, 7, gives him 3 feet, or 35, gives him 3 feet, 4, he gives him actually more than.
That be no closer than 35 feet to the street.
Yeah, I like that.
It's what, 38.7 now?
Right.
Yeah. But that measurement is taken at like the furthest point, and then it does slant. So it's not taken from the closest point, it's taken from the furthest.
Right.
So
That'll
no-
give you more than enough to do your stairs.
Yeah.
So no closer than 35 feet from the
12 feet
street.
in front of my stairs,
You got a
thank
little
you.
fudge factor there, too. You don't need a second on the conditions, right? It's just part of the conditions.
And it's 38.7 feet from the street now?
Now,
Right. It'll be 35. Did you get all that, Kelly?
Okay. Are there any other conditions that we want to attach? How about subject to the plans of record? We don't have plans, do we?
No.
So,
But again,
subject to the drawing.
what you said the last time,
Yeah.
based on the testimony, he said
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
gonna do it
yeah.
in white vinyl, it's gonna look nice.
okay, so you understand the condition that the construction, when it's completed, should be no closer to the street than 35 feet.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right. Do I hear a motion on this condition to the special permit?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
One question I have, so tomorrow I could go pick up that special permit?
Ms. Clark has something to tell you.
Apply for it?
No. The way it works is that we write up the decision. The decision is filed with the town clerk's office. And then a 20-day appeal period starts from the time we file it. The appeal period means that all, this decision will be sent out to all your abutters again, and they have 20 days to decide that we were wrong. But they have to take it to Superior Court or District Court to appeal it.
Superior Land Court.
Or land court, assuming that they never do. At the end of the 20 days, the town clerk will call you, and a stamped copy, stamped original with the town clerk's seal on it, will be given to you to record at the Registry of Deeds. Once it's been recorded at the Registry of Deeds, which I think is all done by e-filing right now, and you might have to go up to Rockland to file it. I don't know what they're doing here in Plymouth at the Registry of Deeds. The building's still closed. But once you get it recorded and bring back a copy of the recording, you take that to the building department, and then they'll issue you your building permit.
Okay.
I know, seemed like a lot.
Very confusing a lot, yes.
There's a lot to it because there's legal ramifications. This is it's a mini variance, if you will. It's
Well,
really the same kind of, time frame and appeals periods and cases.
Tell me one more time, what's the very first step, just to get the ball
the
rolling?
very first step is that we will file the decision.
You will file it, and I'll
With the
hear from
town
someone.
clerk.
Within 20 days.
I'll hear from
Within,
the town clerk.
Yep.
within
All good
the,
then.
and then that starts, once it's filed with the town clerk, that starts the 20-day appeal period, which
Okay.
includes weekends, we think.
Okay,
So
thank God.
everyone on your butters list is gonna get a copy of it again, just in the regular mail. And once you get a call from Kara in the town clerk's office to come pick it up, she'll tell you what to do from there, but that's to
Yeah.
get it on record.
Okay, you're very good down there, I'm sure they'll help me, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll have this written up for you sometime next week. It will not be the full 20 days,
That'd be good.
okay?
Thank you.
All right. Next case is public hearing case number 9-0-R, the petitioner being Donald J. Correa, seeking variances pursuant to Section 2320 or a special permit pursuant to Sections 2253, 5221, and 5300, and those sections following of the Carver zoning bylaw, for a property located at 12 Pond View Way in Carver, which is Assessor's Map 9-Lot 0-R, due to the fact that the applicant is moving the location of a single-family house footprint in a residential agricultural district. Mr. Correa, good evening.
Good evening, thank you.
Nice to see you. I hope all is well.
Yes, thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. This is a property, as you announced, on Plumview Way, and there's an existing structure there that is, have to be taken down and raised. It's been abandoned for a number of years. And originally, it went through Concom approval, but because of the lapse of time, they had requested it to go through this process again. So the Concom approved an order of condition based on a plan that Joe Webby had drafted, which is with the packet of submission, and the Concom specifically requested the location of the footprint be moved closer to the street, away from the water. The Concom had requested a complete septic system design, which was done and approved by the Town of Carver Health Department, which is basically the plan that I've submitted because it's the best indicator of the location of the proposed two-bedroom house. Small house, 30 by 24, and certainly one would suggest would be a significant improvement to the use of the property, which is right now basically vacant. The building inspector and I went back and forth about whether or not a variance or a special permit were required, and I believe that he concluded, and there's some correspondence in my packet, that a special permit was what was called for and not a variance because of the pre-existing structure, among other reasons. So the setback from the street at its closest point, it's almost a square to the street, but the setback to the street at this closest point is 21.2 feet, as you can see. And so as a result, that is a bit 9 feet less than what would otherwise be required under the bylaw. And basically, that's the essence of the application, entirely determined by the Concom. It was not my choice, per se, but they asked for that, and this is the plan that they,
So you're moving it away, the proposed structure is going to be moved away from the water.
away
Closer to
towards
the
the
road.
street,
Yes.
away from the pond. That's what they requested.
Yes.
They'd approved an earlier Concom order of conditions years ago, and again, it lapsed because of time. So when I dealt with Brooke Monroe and with Steve Katowski, who did most of the presentation to the Concom at that time, they specifically said, okay, fine, we'll reissue you a new order, which is on record on the registry of deeds already, and that just move the footprint a little bit closer to the street, which is done. The plan shows the existing outline of the prior structure, and it shows the proposed new construction. So,
Done?
done.
I can hum up over whether this is a special permit or whether it's a variance request. New case law on this point, you know that, right? The Comstock case just came down. The Comstock case says, among other things, is where the alteration or reconstruction would add an additional nonconformity, not just extension of an existing nonconformity, but a new nonconformity. The owner would need a variance to allow the additional nonconformity. So this may actually be a hybrid situation, where maybe you need a special permit and then a variance on that, off of that. I don't know. This is brand-new law. It's Comstock versus the Board of Appeals of Gloucester. And we're sort of still feeling our way through this, I think, local zoning boards. Is there a new nonconformity here that you see based on your proposal, or is this just a pure reconstruction?
A pure what?
Pure reconstruction that will not add any new nonconformities?
Well, from my perspective, relief is relief, whether it's special permit or variance. I understand the burden that would otherwise be required if there was a appeal to a variance. So if the board felt that a variance was more appropriate, that would be fine. Much more difficult to maintain if there was a Superior Court appeal, for sure. But when the first proposal was made years ago, building inspector at that time, Mr. Mendoza, took the approach that as long as I kept the same footprint, essentially, you could reconstruct and it'd be fine. In looking at the new plan, it certainly is an extension in the sense of it is closer to the street. The prior structure, I believe, was conforming then, and I believe it would be conforming now if it was rebuilt on that footprint. But again, I would hope that this board would take deference of the fact that it's one of your own boards in the town, and I understand how you can conflict with other boards in the town, it happens all the time, but it's their request entirely. When Joe Webby first submitted the resubmission for the new order of conditions, he didn't change the location at all. He just kept it where it was. And it was their request through public hearing that they move it closer to the street in a general sense of protection of the wetland, whatever that's, whatever their criteria would be. So, an extension of the existing nonconformity, I don't know that I could rationally determine that's a label you could put on it. But I think because of the existing structure being there and being replaced at the insistence of a town board, that it should be a special permit, and that's the way it was treated. I went back and forth a couple of times with the building inspector about, because his first reaction was a variance, even before the new case. And then went back and forth, and he said, yeah, you're right, it should be a special permit, the way the bylaw is drafted. So that's why I actually applied for a special permit, but I think in the course of writing it up, it became either or, which, you know,
I will take pride of authorship for that.
there you go. I mean,
It was an attempt by the chair to make sure that we addressed all eventualities so that you wouldn't have to come back a second time because we would need to read it.
I understand. And I don't know if the remaining audience tonight is anyone's in opposition. I can't imagine anyone in that neighborhood not wanting to get rid of that old dilapidated structure and to allow a small 30 by 20 structure that would improve the
Is it a
value.
habitable structure, the one that's existing currently?
No. No.
When was the last time it was habitable? Is this like a beach or pond cottage
It was,
season kind of thing?
it was not habitable when I, this is an old purchase. When I bought the property in 2006, and don't ask me why I'm here 13 years later, but when I bought the property in 2006, it wasn't habitable at the time.
Okay.
That's an honest statement.
So it's not been lived in or used for at least, I'm doing the math, 14 years?
Well, I don't know about 20, but I know nothing about the history of the actual uses prior to 2006. So
Okay.
let's say 14 anyway.
Okay.
But again, the original building inspector took the approach that it didn't have to be habitable to reconstruct on location. And that's what, you know, we were going to do originally. Concom order ran out, not to be repetitious, applied for a new one. Board said, move it towards the street. Joe Webby said, fine. Or Steve Katowski actually said, fine. Move it to the street. Septic design, as you can imagine, on a wetland situation, the Concom was insistent. I don't know if they have the legal right to do it, but they were insistent that the septic was fully designed, and he did it. It's fully designed and approved.
Mr. Jermaine, can I inquire of you whether you voted on this as a member of the Concom?
No, I had to have, because I've never missed a Concom meeting, and this took place. Is this correct that we're talking back in 3/2019?
Yes, right. About March of 19 was the Concom vote. The order of conditions was voted.
And they asked you to move the building forward.
They did.
Can't for the life of me remember this, but, and I'll certainly, whatever the pleasure of the board is, I would imagine, and I don't know without looking at the record, whether I would have been in favor or not of moving the building forward. I'm trying to distinguish, frankly, why, because we're
Yes, momentarily.
we're away from the 65. No matter where you put the house, you're within the 100. I would also argue that this is where you want to put it now.
Yes, well, because the Concom
Right.
basically laid it out and said, move it, and Steve Katowski said, well,
Trying to think if we moved it because of the septic, or we moved it because of the 65, that I don't know.
well, I think honestly it was a combination, because naturally, as you know, being a Concom member, they'd like to see as much movement away from any waterway for a septic system as possible. And so,
No, I agree with that, that's why
Right.
the septic is so close to the street.
exactly.
But I'm still racking my brain as to why the house is, and by taking the house away from touching the existing footprint of the existing house, no matter how dilapidated, that gets you into variance territory
Who's zoning?
and zoning.
What do you think of this?
because you're not anywhere near, well, not anywhere near, you're just off the corner of the existing footprint. So no part of the new structure will touch any part of the old structure, overlapped in its own footprint.
Ms. Clark?
We've had several of these, I don't know if anyone can hear me. We've had several of these, like old pond cottage lots that had been abandoned. Some of them were even like camper trailers, mobile homes that actually had a septic system. It was around Bates Pond area. We've handled several of these in the past, and if the property or the structure on the property had been essentially abandoned or non-habitable for a period of more than 2 years, and we have a bylaw to that effect, we took it as a brand-new property, so that it wasn't a reconstruction. It lost all its protection under nonconformities and pre-existing conditions. So we took it back to square one as to 60,000 square feet and 50 feet from the street and variance under all of those. And those are what I'm starting to remember are the ones that we've handled in the past, which would have been under Mike Mendoza, our previous building commissioner. And that was his approach, that if it's been an abandoned use, it loses its nonconformity.
For at least 2 years.
For 2 years.
So aren't you glad that I gave you the option of variance relief in the publication?
I certainly am.
Now,
I will
we have
say,
another
though,
issue, and I don't mean to steal Ms. Clark's thunder, and I know that she'll get back to this momentarily, but because we're a small town with boards that often have people come onto them and then leave unexpectedly, there are vacancies. And Mr. Jermaine is a valued member of this board. I want to say that publicly for everybody here in this room as well as for folks at home. But he is a sitting member currently of the Conservation Commission, and although he cannot recall the specifics of this case when it came before the Conservation Commission, and I believe him when he says this, we have sort of decided in the past to ask those folks not to participate in the merits of a decision that is necessary at this level, the ZBA level. Not because they might have an actual conflict of interest, but the optics are bad. It would appear as if there's an apparent conflict of interest, because he's already voted on this once.
I did, I signed it.
Okay.
The order.
So this puts us in a situation where if he graciously agrees to recuse himself, which I think he's about to do, then we are now sub-quorum, as there will only be 3 of us, which would require that you wait until our next meeting, which will be on October 27th. So I want to ask you, Mr. Correa, is there an urgency to this project where you are looking to commence construction this fall and hopefully get this property built before the cold weather hits?
well, I have been talking with Bobby Pazant from Pazant Construction that would most likely do the construction there. So only in the sense of the weather, I mean, if we have a winter like last year, they almost never stop working the whole winter. But, only to respond to your question honestly, would it be better to get something sooner than later? Sure, it would be. But I wonder if the recusal is going to happen. I mean, I would waive any conflict issue if the member doesn't see to
I, as chair, appreciate your willingness to waive. But again, it's sort of been the policy of this board now for quite some time that regardless of the petitioner's willingness to waive, that, again, the appearance of a conflict does not look good. And the optics are not good. So from a public interest standpoint, we have taken this approach. Mr. Mueller, for instance, sits on the Board of Health in town, and he has had in the past to be asked the same question or questions that I've just asked of Mr. Germain. Ms. Clark sits on the RDA, same thing there. So if these cases have already come before another board, and then they come before us, and, you know, members of these other boards also sit with us, then, you know, we look at that very carefully, and we don't want anybody to question our impartiality or any individual member's impartiality. Mr. Germain, do you wish to recuse?
I want to make a statement first.
Is it a long one?
Well, now that you said that.
Mr. Germain, the floor
I
is yours.
don't recall this case. I did sign the order of conditions. If it was and I suspect that 99 times out of 100, they're unanimous votes, that we asked that the building be moved forward. And they've complied with that, and now they're back here looking for relief because they did what conservation, I'm only one member of 5, suggested they do. It's entirely up to you, Mr. Chairman. I don't see a conflict
An actual
personally.
conflict.
Sorry?
An actual conflict.
I don't see one because he's doing what we've asked, or what was asked of him on the Conservation Commission. He's come back here unless another member of the board has a real issue, and I'll certainly be more than happy to abstain from the variance vote. But it's not like we said no, and he's done this anyway, and now it's back here where there was a conflict between the two boards. The Conservation said do this, and now he's done this, now he's back here before zoning saying this is what I was asked to do, what's the pleasure of the zoning board?
But there has been some discussion already about whether it's even really necessary to have asked the petitioner to move this house closer to the road. So
That I don't know the reason.
I inquire of Mr. Mueller and Ms. Clark how they would like to proceed with this issue. I know how I would like to proceed, but let's hear from the two of you.
Okay, I'll go. The thing that, I mean, Mr. Germain has run across this on several
Couple of times,
occasions.
yeah.
But on this particular occasion, the Concom required the applicant to create the hardship of the variance by moving the structure. If you built it on the same footprint, we might be talking about something different, even though it's been abandoned. So we'd have to revisit that part. But they ask you to create the hardships, and that's a self-created, created by another board, for which Mr. Germain sat on. So I see this as almost a little bit more of a conflict than what we've usually run into.
It's a first.
As opposed to voting on orders of conditions that go with larger pieces of property or something like that. This was something specific, and it was over a year ago? Alan?
It was last March. I'd like to.
This March or a year ago?
A year ago, 2019. If this should get continued, I'm gonna go watch the video of the meeting to find out, you know, what we were talking about. I just don't recall this. I'm sorry, I don't. I know Joe, I've done, you know, we've done Zoom meetings and Webby's come before us many times. And I just don't remember this particular. Must have been a pretty easy one because it didn't obviously raise a tremendous amount of controversy, or I would have.
No, and I'll be very candid with you. I didn't go to that particular Concom meeting, but Steve Kutowski went there for the Joe Webby group, and he explained to me what had happened, and he said, I got some good news and maybe some bad news. The Concom approved it, but they wanted us to move the footprint, and then they resubmitted the plan. I think you'll find in the record there were 2 hearings.
Right.
And so I said, well, okay, fine. And he said, it's only a 9-foot differential from the street, I think, unless I'm misquoting the bylaw.
I mean, 9 foot closer to the street.
Right, than the bylaw would otherwise require. This house has a matter of right if they can move it back 9 feet. But the Concom didn't really care about that. They really wanted it as far away as possible, given the layout of the lot. So, they took the path of least resistance and said, okay, we'll come in with a plan that's further, closer to the street. And I remember Steve telling me, like, you shouldn't have any trouble with the Board of Appeals because the Concom ordered it done that way. I even asked the probative question, what if the Board of Appeals didn't give me the special permit, which I was convinced at the time was only a special permit, but thank you for the alteration of the dual application. That certainly doesn't hurt. That's only a plus. No downside to that. He said, well, you have to go back to the Concom and tell them that this is what the Board of Appeals did. Now we got two boards fighting each other. And I've lived through those battles in Plymouth, and it's not pretty. This is not a major production. It's not a major property. It's nothing significant in the terms of the big picture.
So in essence, what the Conservation Commission asked this gentleman to do was to move the footprint of the house 9 feet closer to the street? Is that your testimony?
Within 9 feet of what would otherwise have been required. The whole footprint is moved more than 9 feet, although the corners do just about.
So roughly 9 feet closer to the street.
Than what the bylaw would require.
Well, the bylaw, it's supposed to be 50 feet from the street. And
I'm sorry, 50
it's
feet.
29 and some.
I
So
apologize.
you need
You're right.
about 21 feet.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I apologize.
29.
Yes, I was thinking 30 because I just,
Yeah, that's the side.
my bad.
It was about a foot shy of the current, it was about 49 feet previously.
Oh, I see, so,
So now it would be, that
30 feet,
he'd need,
rather than a foot of, if it was on the
Yeah.
original footprint.
yep,
Now he's gonna look just over.
he's going to need how much? He's going to need 30 feet.
29, yeah. 29.
May I ask, how did you compute it was 49?
Well, I'm looking at the current setback of the existing, you're building a 30-foot home, and you're 21 feet off. So you got 30, 51
And
feet.
21 is 51, he's right.
he's,
You're almost lined up with the corner of that existing dwelling.
At 49?
Right, so
good,
you're
I
about
wouldn't
49.
have figured that out.
Well, then, maybe it's a modification of a non-conforming structure then.
But you're not on the existing
You're
footprint
not
at
on
all.
the existing footprint.
Right.
At
And
all.
it's been unoccupied for more than 2 years,
Well, I understand that.
so.
So I think we've answered a couple of questions. First of all, it's not a special permit, it's a variance,
Yeah.
right?
And I-
So you're going to need dimensional relief per 40A. So you're going to have to be prepared for your 40A arguments with us the next time. Shape,
I can't tell you why we.
shape, soil, topography.
But
Or,
we'll get this.
And for the record, I think it's the consensus of the other 3 members of the board that Mr. Germain should recuse himself
Yeah.
from voting on this particular matter on the merits. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Can I ask how we get the 4th member? Or are we invoking the rule of necessity, but that 3 people vote?
Well, I suppose
Right,
that's.
'cause then neither one of them are here.
I-
So the
Can we
next-
allow them, hold on a second, can we allow the other members to vote, even though they didn't start with this case?
We never have.
We have to take a look at that.
Can you invoke an absentee ballot?
No.
Mail-in?
No, they do have them on the Concom.
And I'm going to get to you, I promise. We also have this rule of necessity where if it's required that we do a vote that is sub-quorum, 3 members or less, then we can proceed in that fashion. This is something I don't think we've done before. But we'll look at that, and we'll look to see if there's any way that we can have our 4th and 5th members come in on the second hearing date and vote on the merits of this particular project, so that it's not postponed for you again. but we're going to have to postpone this for the next meeting. Before I go any further, again, I'd like to get a motion on asking Mr. Jermaine to recuse, unless you want to do that willingly, Mr. Jermaine.
I'll do it willingly. I'd like to leave it open till the next meeting, simply because I want to watch the video of what happened, and perhaps I can give you an explanation of what the heck's going on.
You certainly will be heard, but for purposes of
Yeah, that's
recusal, it's now
Yeah,
or not at all.
I'll recuse.
Okay. So let the record reflect that Mr. Jermaine has recused himself because he voted on this project as a sitting member of the Conservation Commission, even though he doesn't recall the particulars.
I don't.
And I believe you. I can't remember what I did yesterday sometimes. Mr. Cree, I apologize for sort of misdirection on this case tonight. I know that this is not a simple case in many respects, and we have this new law as well that we're trying to grapple with, but it does appear under 2245 of our bylaws that this is going to have to be dimensional relief per variance rather than through a special permit. So we'll come back, but before we move forward any further tonight, I promised to allow members of the board to be heard, and I know a young lady in the back has been wanting to say something, so if you could stand and identify yourself and give us your address.
Jennifer Valancourt, 126 Plymouth Street. I was just curious as to how close the existing building is to the water. It was within the 65 feet?
Half the house. Half the house was.
Half the house is in within the 65?
Yeah, of the existing.
Oh,
The
here's the
existing.
60.
Right.
And the proposed is how far from the water's edge?
From the water?
Yes.
Oh, it's a long way, but it's.
It's a long way.
It's well outside the
87,
65.
It looks like,
But
well, there's one dimension that's 82 feet to the middle of the house, so if you subtract 15 from that,
Oh, right.
you'd get about 67.
And the proposed well, how close?
The what?
The proposed well, where is that located?
That's closer to the street.
The well is closer to the...
Yeah, the plan
It's
is
down by
right.
the
You can,
No, it's
No,
down
the well.
No, the well is 10 feet from the pond's edge.
10 feet from the pond's edge, that's within the 65.
oh, the well, I'm sorry, proposal, yeah.
Yeah, but according to this, Conservation gave them the go-ahead for the
No, I
well.
was just curious.
Yeah.
The other point I was trying to make was if you can't meet a quorum, there's been, in the past, due to unforeseen circumstances, Comcom couldn't make quorums. They were given the option of giving an absentee quorum where the person didn't have to be there, but they could vote ahead of time to make his quorum. I don't know if that's still in effect.
I don't know that that's ever happened, and
It was an
Um,
option, because we did.
I'm on my second term with Concom.
I don't know how you'd vote ahead of
I used to
time.
be on the Concom.
This
and-
goes way back then.
Yeah, this goes way back. We couldn't make quorum.
Oh, yeah, they made up their own rules way back.
Yeah, I'm
But we
not,
were given the option, if we couldn't make the quorum, we could vote without being here.
Honestly, there was a motion before town meeting 2 years ago
there was.
that would have allowed a missing member
Right,
to go back, watch the video,
right.
to get himself up to speed, come in at the next meeting, explain that he had watched the video, and that he could now vote on the thing, and that was denied at town meeting.
All right.
Was turned down, which would be a great thing to have when you
I
have
didn't know
boards that are
if
short.
during COVID that they made,
So as I said before, there are rare occasions where we can invoke the rule of necessity, where we can meet as a sub-quorum board and arrive at a decision on the merits. This may be one of these instances, we'll see. But for now, I think what we're going to need to do is continue this to our next date so that we can consider things, so Mr. Correa can decide how he best wants to present his argument under 40A for dimensional variances because of the application, in this case, of bylaw 2245. Yes, sir. Can I have your name and address, please?
Edward Kozlowski, 10 Pondview Way. I'm an abutter.
14 years ago, Mr. Correa needed a variant for his septic because it didn't meet the 100-foot setback from my well. I granted the variant in lieu where the driveway would be, the access would be off James Lane. And I'm just curious if that was registered. That was going to be registered with the deeds. And I just don't know that it was or not. Do you remember that? No, I think, when the property was purchased, there was a Dan Snow that had done the original plans, and I believe that that was based on the footprint that was the original reconstruction back then. Through the years, the access has been through my driveway, and I granted the variant to my well, provided the access would be off of James Lane. And that was all agreed to, and it would be put into the plan and registered that manner. The variance to install the well? I'm not sure exactly what you're saying.
This was back in April of 2006, when we had a public hearing with the Board of Health.
Yeah, I don't think I was the owner at the time.
Yes, you were.
I was?
Oh,
Okay.
yes, sir, you were there at the meeting.
This was at the Board of Health. It was, okay, okay. That was 13 years ago. I have limited memory of that.
It was a little bit of a quid pro quo. You needed permission because
Okay,
you
number
weren't
one,
exactly
this is not-
meeting the setbacks,
This is not
and we didn't
Pondview
want you
Way.
to use our driveway.
This is James Lane. This
No, the-
plan is incorrect.
The property sits on Pondview.
Huh?
The property sits on Pondview.
Can I say something? So the.
Oh, wait, hold on, let's let them finish and then I'll take you, okay?
I should-
Kozlowski, do you have anything further to add?
That's Pondview.
Okay, so where's James Lane?
I don't know. Property sits on Pondview.
Just want you
There's
guys
the
to know, there's a
pond.
little
You're
mix up
moving
with
the house
the road.
back.
Right.
But that's James Lane,
There's
that's not
two
Pondview
addresses.
Way.
All right, Ed,
Pondview Way is, yes.
we need to have this conversation up here. So what is your concern with regard to this proposal? What do you want to tell us?
Mr. Correa had agreed to make access to the property off of James Lane, not off Pondview. And this map is incorrect. What they're calling Pondview Way is really James Lane.
Well, that's certainly relevant information to have.
Yeah. Because they're not showing James Lane at all. They're showing that as Pondview Way, it's not.
What's this, I'm sorry, through the chair, what's this road going off to the top up here?
The top?
Yeah, what's
That's
that?
James Lane, not Pondview Way.
This is also James Lane?
What do you refer?
Sorry. I'm completely
On the
confused.
record.
This is not Pondview Way?
He says,
That's James Lane.
What's this?
I don't have that agreement, I don't have that agreement.
Does that go around the corner?
This is my property here.
Okay.
Okay, and Pondview Way actually comes down through here. Okay, so this here is truly Pondview Way.
The easement's Pondview Way?
It comes right down my driveway, it cuts right through the property, and it goes right on up. Now, he had agreed to make the driveway up here, his existing driveway is off my driveway.
All right, thank you,
This map
Mr.
is
Kozlowski.
correct. I've lived there for 44 years.
All right. Mr. Correa, what do you have to say about this?
I can only tell you that I hired Joe Webby to, create this plan and also to get the septic approval on that. And the building address, everything that is relevant to this is 12 Pondview Way.
And,
Correct.
and that's the way it's always been labeled and proceeded accordingly. There's a
Mr.
locus.
Kozlowski says that you and he reached an agreement some 14 years ago, which you say you now cannot remember,
Right.
concerning the location of the driveway. Do you have any memory of that now that it's been brought to your attention? Have
Honestly,
refreshed your recollection?
honestly, I don't. I really honestly don't. The driveway to the property, right? So,
You needed a variance for your septic to my well.
From your original plan.
from the original plan. Okay.
Is this
well,
on record anywhere in the town?
Yes. Should be.
No, I've actually don't have a copy of the minutes from that Board of Health meeting, but Kevin Ford did lay his hands on it, that we did agree to the variance.
This is Mrs. K, everybody.
Oh, sorry about that, Kathleen.
Here's what I would like for you to do, because we know we're continuing this to the next meeting anyway. I'd like for both of you to research your records and also the records here at the town hall, if you can't find anything in your own file, and have that available for presentation to the board the next time. It would be helpful if this information were put in the board file in advance, and you can ask whoever you give it to at town hall to advise me that this new information has been brought to the file, so that we can sort of begin to look at this. Mr. Correa, my suggestion to you would be to contact Mr. Webby and indicate that an issue has been introduced with regard to the roads and also the variance of the septic to the well. This may have an impact on the relief that you would be seeking in connection with the proposed project.
That's fine.
Thank you.
I just make one further comment that Joe Webby did get, as shown on this plan. This is actually the septic plan. The Board of Health approval for the location of the system. So whatever variances were required to install that location for septic obviously were obtained. The Board of Health approved it.
I'm not suggesting otherwise.
Yeah.
All I'm suggesting is that since we're going to have another meeting on this anyway, and since an issue has been introduced by Mr. and Mrs. Kozlowski, that that information should be brought to the attention of the board and placed in the board file so that we can make an informed decision. And if you're right, all the appropriate permits and plans have been signed off on, maybe, you know, those current permits and plans that have been signed off on have superseded what might have been done 14 or 15 or 16 years ago. But we don't know that. And for the sake of having all the information that we need before the board when we come in the next time, so we don't have to reschedule again on you, let's try to get to the bottom of this. Is that fair for everybody? Just
Sure.
get all the information before us so that we can then make an informed decision.
It's fine.
Mr. and Mr. Kozlowski, do you have anything further that you want to add?
No, that's it. Yeah.
You think that's okay? You think that's fair? Yes, sir.
My name is Marty Baldwin, and we have a...
Your address is what?
Well, I own the property at 13 Pondview Way.
Okay.
He's in between Ed and myself, okay? I just want to ask, okay, we're going to have another meeting.
We are.
We're going to have to ask some questions then, we should ask them all now.
It's my policy to always entertain questions from the public at whatever meeting we're at. So if you want to ask some questions now, it's okay, or if you want to hold your fire and ask them the next time, that's okay too.
You mentioned about his well, my septic system
right on the edge of the property, okay, in the 13 Pondview Way. I kind of glanced at the print, I was down here Thursday, glanced at that real quickly. I don't know the bylaws, and I was also at the Conservation Compound meeting back in March, okay, 2019, and I thought there was gonna be another meeting. We were never informed if there was another meeting. We don't recall being approved by the Concom. Okay, another question I had is, being informed about this, is there a certain time limit that we're supposed to be informed? Is it like 30 days? Are we supposed to be informed 30 days prior to the meeting?
Well, I'm losing track of what you're asking. You're talking about informed of the Conservation Commission meeting?
Okay, I've only been informed about one meeting.
One Conservation Commission meeting. Mr. Jermaine is better situated to answer that question. Is it like our situation here, Alan?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the question.
Okay, he says that he was,
Read this?
yeah, he says he was never informed of the second Conservation Commission meeting.
You wouldn't be.
Okay,
You got a certified letter the first time?
yes, we came to the meeting.
Okay, and at that meeting, you would have been notified that if it was continued,
Yeah,
and Brooke would have made a statement saying you will not be re-notified, so the next meeting is X.
Yeah. You're given verbal notice, and that's the way it happens here as well.
There isn't another
because I
certified
got a
letter.
certified letter in the mail only 2 weeks, only probably 7 days ago, approximately 7 days ago.
On this case,
On this case.
on the ZBA case. And so, because we're continuing this tonight, I hope you've made mental note of our next date.
October 22nd,
Right, 7th.
at 7 o'clock.
7th, not 2nd. So it's the same policy here. You'll get your initial notice, and then if you choose to come, you'll be told verbally when the next date is.
Okay, which is verbally now that I know that's October 22nd.
Are you saying 2nd or 7th?
The 22nd of October.
No, the 7th, 7th, 27.
Okay,
Now you've been told many times.
yes, sorry,
No, no need to apologize.
okay. And also, you know, can I continue with this?
You may.
Okay. We purchased the property back in Pondview Way, 13 Pondview Way in 2017. 2007. The house has been unoccupied for the 13 years that have been there, okay? Luckily, nothing's happened. There's kids in the neighborhood, and I don't think, you know, he's finally trying to do something. Yeah, the conservation's given them permission to move the house back. I couldn't understand why I couldn't just put back what was there.
I mean, well, Conservation Commission has told him that he should move the house forward,
That's right,
not back, forward, closer to the street.
close to the street.
And Mr. Jermaine raised the same question when he was trying to refresh his recollection. He said, I don't know why
I don't know why.
we couldn't leave it within the same footprint.
Right,
So, you know, that's another thing we're going to need to do as board members. We're going to have to read the order of conditions,
okay.
which are part of the board file and which we did not see until this evening. What else would you like to say?
She also, I didn't know this rule.
Who's she?
Oh,
That's Ms. Clark.
Miss Clark, I'm sorry, Miss Clark. Miss
I'm
Clark.
only she up here, so it's pretty easy.
I couldn't mention her, I'm sorry. But, she mentioned a law that's, after 2 years of not being occupied, it's like having a new dwelling.
Yes,
Yes.
And that's how we're approaching it,
that is how we are approaching.
how we are now approaching it.
Okay,
So he needs dimensional relief. If this is going to go through
okay,
as presented, he's going to need dimensional relief, particularly setback from the street.
okay.
I think, what do we say, 30 feet, Mr. Mueller?
Whatever.
Or whatever the dimensional relief he needs, we'll figure it out. But it's like a new structure, yes, because for 2 years, far longer than that, but for at least the last 2 years, it's been uninhabitable and dilapidated.
Last 10 years it's been inhabitable.
Sometimes we don't know these things until we get here.
Right, well, right, because he's still paying taxes on the property, so the town just assumed that everything's going on.
Well,
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
And if you want to say something at the next meeting, should we see you again?
Yes.
And I hope we do.
Yes.
You feel free to raise that hand,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
All right.
So, you know, everybody else can too.
Who else would like to be heard? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Brian Gatter, 16 Longview Way.
Hi, Brian.
From what was brought to my attention that the road has changed, and I was just wanting to clarify just a little bit that how would you actually make your driveway? I mean, I know you're gonna do that in the next meeting, but do you have an idea of how it would go?
How, what would go?
The driveway, Mr. Correa.
Placement of the driveway.
No, I think, at this particular point, since there's no building permit that's been applied for, which will all be a separate application, naturally, the only situation here was Concom first, septic system, Board of Health, footprint where the Concom asked for it to be. Beyond that, there was no building permit application, and nor would there be, utilized.
So to answer Brian's question, do you know where the proposed driveway is going to be placed?
No, there is no there's been no determination of that at this point in time.
Okay, so you know what? I think that this is something we need to talk about the next time. If you can let us know where you think you would want to place that driveway, I think this is an appropriate question.
It's right there.
It's proposed.
Proposed.
Well, there's a proposed location. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a proposed location there.
Brought to my attention that the road went through my yard, and how.
Right there, see it?
Oh, okay. Time.
Is that?
You broke went through your yard.
Oh, boy, that's interesting. Joe Webby would be interested to find that.
You want to stay
How could it come through here when the existing structure was right there?
Can I get everybody's attention here for a minute? There's too many people talking and too many private conversations. Mr. Kozlowski, could you just sit for a minute? Brian and significant other, you have the floor. Yes, you have the
You
floor.
come back over here.
So our address, according to some paperwork, is 16 Pondview Way. We are also 16 Bunnies Road and 6 Bunnies Road, both of them, according to different paperwork, because the road used to go through the middle of all of our properties, supposedly from what they told us. We've been at the house for 6 years. And that road there that's labeled Pondview Way is James Lane. Pondview Way goes directly into their driveway and ends. So that's where we're confused and want to know what's going to happen and make sure that we're not going to lose.
Yeah, so you've heard me tell Mr. Correa that he should check with his engineer.
It's been paid.
Hold on a second. You've heard me say to Mr. Correa that he needs to check with his engineer before the next meeting so we can get the labeling of these roads correct. You're certainly entitled to know that. Insofar as the proposed location of the driveway, are you satisfied now upon looking at the plan?
Not really, actually. I couldn't really tell, but where his property was.
This is the
Well,
house now,
This is,
and this is the pond.
Okay.
here's the pond.
Okay. So that
Here's
is
the old
James
house.
Lane.
It's over here.
Yeah, that's the driveway?
That's it.
Proposed.
Oh, okay. So that saves me, like, otherwise it would come through here.
No, you can't do anything back here.
Well,
Now, that's too close to the,
the original road, from what I was told by the neighbors, that's how it came out.
That used to be the road.
So
And
if
that's
it's
why
not gonna
our
be
address
fixed,
is
if that's it,
Pondview Way.
then I'm totally fine with where it was.
okay, thank you.
So we live in Pondview Way.
I don't know where any of these places are.
There's,
Mr. Kozlowski? Mr. Jermaine would like to have a word. Mr. Jermaine?
is this the house that sits way back and two sides of it are on the water? If you walk too far, you actually fall off a cliff?
No.
All right, different house. It's not down at the end of Bunny's Lane, down in that neck of the woods?
No.
Okay. The other comment I was gonna make, Mr. Chairman, is that Concom, in issuing their order of conditions,
Shh. Mr. Jermaine?
it said that the construction of the structures within the 100-foot buffer zone, however, because the applicant has taken measures to relocate the new dwelling outside the 65, which is considerably outside it, and outside the 65-foot buffer, no variance other than that for the new well is required. So I think that Concom never told him to move the house. I think they came and put the house where it is to get it out of the 65. And that was the order of conditions. Because if Concom had said, move the house, they would have put it in the order of conditions, or they would have continued it until they got approval to put the house, if it's gonna require a variance.
Mr. Correa, is it your understanding that Concom told you to move the house away from the water?
Yes, that was the
Or
feedback.
was it to move the house out of the 65? Because
Well,
the
but-
existing house is halfway in the 65.
Right, I think one and the same, because they didn't want it within the 65.
Okay. This is
One
a
and the
whole
same.
different can of worms.
I think that was the underlying cause of it. I mean, the underlying reason behind it, yes. So they, just exactly the reason why they had requested to be moved.
Okay, so does anyone else have anything they'd like to say? So let's recapitulate here. We know that we need another meeting. And at the outset, we need another meeting because Mr. Jermaine has recused himself. He continues to speak, and I'm glad that he does, but he's speaking as a member of the public now, and is going to be helpful, I'm sure, going forward in letting us know upon reviewing the Conservation Commission file and refreshing his recollection what actually happened when this matter came before it, the Conservation Commission. So when we come back, we'll have some information for you, Mr. Correa, about whether we're going to invoke the rule of necessity and proceed as a board of three, or whether the other missing board members tonight will be allowed to join. That's number one. That's more of an administrative issue that will be handled intramurally, if you will. Mr. Jermaine, if you could take a look at that Conservation Commission file and give us some more history and background, that would be helpful as well. So we'll come back with more information on that. Mr. Correa, I ask that you speak to your engineer and see if we can get a better handle on the labeling or naming of these roads, because as you have heard tonight, it's caused considerable confusion amongst the neighbors. We rely on these plans and we rely on how these roads are labeled, so it's critical that we get that right. And also, I ask that both you and Mr. or Mrs. Kozlowski check your records for that variance, that well v. septic variance that was discussed earlier. We'd like to have a little bit more information on that. So I think those are the four things that I've heard that will require that we come back at this again. Does anyone else have anything else that they feel that we need to outline now so that people can come back fully prepared?
I think if there's a question about addresses, the Board of Assessors assigns those. So if you have a question of, are you, what was it, James Road? Or Pond View? You might start there and ask them. Sometimes it changes, like on deeds and things, because the town is designated what used to be a dirt road, or sometimes what we call in title examining paper streets. So they changed that to a regular name, and it kind of moves up the line to eventually have a, an address mostly for emergency, fire and safety. So if you've had multiple names in the past, you may find that the town has decided what you are. If you have a question there, we can ask the assessors.
Mr. Correa, do you have anything further you want to add?
No, I don't.
I don't want you to leave here tonight thinking that, what you're hearing is opposition. What you're hearing is a desire to obtain more information.
That's the world I live in.
Okay? As do I.
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
As do I.
And we'll square away the street name. It certainly wouldn't affect the plan per se, but it should be labeled correctly, that's for sure.
Yes, and I agree with you. It shouldn't affect the plan.
Right, and.
But we need to get a better handle on the history of the Conservation Commission case, and
Right.
Mr. Germain will be instrumental on that.
And that video is available to the public as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube, okay.
And the concern raised by both Mr. and Mrs. Kozlowski.
Yeah, I'll chat with them on the way out, and,
Yeah, we've got to get to the bottom of that, and if there's any issue there that affects your proposal,
right,
then it's going to have to be overcome.
right.
What we have
Yeah.
decided tonight, though, and this is good, is that you need variances. You don't need a special permit. So we're not going to have to re-advertise because we did this in the alternative.
Right.
So you're going to require dimensional variances if this is going to go through, which means that you're going to have to come up with your best 40A argument.
Well, I guess topographical necessity, maybe a case of first impression. Topographical hardship may very well be the insistence of another board. That would be an interesting case right there.
Motion denied.
Well, where else are you going to put it, you know?
Well, sometimes if it doesn't satisfy one or more of the 40A requirements, the project doesn't happen. This is state law now that we're talking about, not local law.
I'm well familiar with 48.
I know you are. Well, thank you for your patience with us tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your input. It's been instructive. We don't profess to know everything up here. We just happen to volunteer, and if anybody goes to town meeting and wants to award us large stipends the next time, we're certainly prepared to accept.
Yeah, and I want to thank the participants, because without voicing their concerns tonight, it wouldn't be as meaningful to move forward. So that's a good thing.
That's right. We want to get to the bottom of all this, hopefully the next time. Before I leave this, does anybody feel as if they need to take a view? I'm seeing the shaking of heads in the negative.
I don't know where we're going.
We don't know where we're going yet, so I guess we're not prepared to do any site walk. We may not need to do a site walk. But for now, let's have a motion to continue this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And you will not get a second notice. It's October 27th at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Town meeting, this is October 15th. They moved it up from the 20th. It's a special town meeting, and everybody in this room that's a resident of Carver should attend.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the date?
October 15th at 7 PM at the high school.
And Mr. Correa, as you indicated, it might be a good idea to speak to Mr. and Mrs. Kozlowski on the way out.
I'll do that right now.
Thank you. All right. Does anyone have anything else that they want to say?
Motion to adjourn.
I hear a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your participation. Good evening, Carver.
Damn it.